Hello, this is Michelle from CNC Designs. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from New Zealand. I'm here to show you a fabulous, cute 3D project for Christmas. It's a melted snowman. Now this project I thought of because here in New Zealand it's summertime at Christmas, so we don't have any snow. But I love all the traditional Christmas symbols, the snow and Santa and his reindeer, etc. And I came up with the idea to use the mini Keepsake Curvy box to make the head of the snowman and make him melt. So I will show you how quick and easy this is to do with only a few items. First of all, you need a sheet of cardstock, Whisper White cardstock. Here we use A4. Other parts of the world you could be using letter size. It doesn't matter whether you're using A4 or letter size, because what you're going to do is you're going to cut off about 14 centimeters, which is about 5.5 inches, and that will give you 2 pieces. Now you're going to use both pieces, so don't throw either one away. The smaller one, which is 14 centimeters or 5.5 inches, is the perfect size for the die for the mini Curvy Keepsake die. So that way you don't waste any paper and you're able to set it on there and then run it through your die cutting machine. After you do that, you will then have your piece cut out, and then you'll have your leftover bit. Okay, keep that because that's how you're going to make the sentiment. And this is going to be the snowman, and then your other piece left over you're going to use to make the base of the snowman. The other items you're going to need is a scrap of pumpkin pie cardstock, orange cardstock. You'll need a long skinny scrap of Early Espresso for the arms. You'll need a small scrap, just a little tiny scrap of Old Olive or a different color. This is for the little bit on the hat, so it's up to you which color you want to use. And a little rectangular scrap of basic black cardstock. This scrap, again, it depends on what size hat you want to make, but my scrap of basic black is about 4 by 2.5 centimeters, or that's 1 5/8 by 1 inch. Okay, so those scrap bits you use later on, but the Early Espresso, you're going to want to use the die, the branch die, from the Seasonal Layers Thinlits, which is in the annual catalog. Now you don't need, notice this is wider than the cardstock. That's fine, because you don't need the whole thing. You only want the part that has like 3 little bits sticking out. See that? So that's kind of like the fingers of the snowman's arm. And so for this, this is fine because I'm only going to cut out that much. I'm going to run it through the my die cutting machine and cut out 2 of these. So you need 2 bits to make the arms. And once you cut it out, you will then have 2 little arms. Okay? See? So we've got our arms here. Then we will cut our little hat. So you cut your hat by making just a couple notches down the bottom to make the brim of the hat. And then that kind of determines the size, how tall your hat is. So it's up to you how big of a top hat you want it to be. And then you can adjust the size. So just simply cut your black cardstock. You could have a different type of hat if you wanted. But my memories of snowman is having a big top hat. If you haven't already figured it out, I do have an American accent. I moved to New Zealand in 1996. So I did grow up in the US. However, I grew up in California, so we didn't have white Christmases. But we had Frosty the Snowman on TV. So I used to watch it all the time. So that's basically my hat. Then the next bit, my original one I used a bit of ribbon, which we no longer have in stock. So I'm going just to use a bit of cardstock. So you can just have whatever color cardstock and you can decorate the hat however you like. So I'm just cutting a little strip here. And so this strip is just going to go around there. You know, quite often top hats have a little bit going around. So what I'm going to do now is just put a dab of glue. I could just trim it off, or I think I'm just going to wrap it around. So just a little bit of the Tombow glue, if it decides to participate in this video. Come on, Tombow, you can come out. There we go. Just a little bit, run around there. Put my cardstock where I want it to be for the hat. And I'm just going to fold this over, just to give it a bit of a better edge than snipping it. And I'll fold that over and add a little bit of glue in the back, just to hold it in place. Doesn't matter what it looks like in the back, it's the front that we're going to be looking at. Okay? So, there's my hat done. Looks a bit big on the sides. I'm just going to snip a bit off that edge. Looks a bit too big. Again, you can make your hat whatever shape or size you want. There's my hat and my arms over there. Now I'm going to make the nose. So just a bit of the pumpkin pie cardstock, and I like to do it from a corner because I can never cut things straight. That's why I like dies, because they cut everything perfect. So that looks like a pretty big nose to me. And so on his little nose, I'm just using my basic black Stampin' Bright pen, and just going to put, because it looks just too orange to me, so I'm just going to put a few little marks. You know how carrots have little grooves in them? Hopefully you can see my little grooves I'm making in the carrot. So hopefully you can see that. Let's see if it focuses. A few little grooves in the carrot, make it look more like a carrot. So we got our arms. So now the arms, if you cut a bit too much like I did, you can just simply snip his arm off so it looks a bit better. Okay, so we got our nose, our arm, our hat, and now we are going to have our head and our body. So for this part, you simply need to stamp. Okay? So here I'm going to stamp it, and you want to stamp it before you fold it up. So here I'm going to stamp it with the Silvery Shimmer ink. And to get the snow going, I'm using the Christmas Countdown stamp set. It has this cute little speckled dots and snow. So I've got that mounted already. And what you're going to do is just stamp everywhere. Now you don't need to stamp in the center here because that's going to be on the bottom and you're not going to see it. When you do stamp, if you notice the impressions, the embossed part, you want to stamp where the embossed part is going down, because when you fold things you should always see, that's what we call a valley. You should always fold it to create a mountain, and that breaks up the fibers of the paper better, and it gives you a better fold. If you fold it the other way, which is kind of what most people naturally think, that's actually might cause rips. So it's better to make sure you're stamping that way. If you stamp the wrong side and discover it later, you can always turn it over, because every piece of paper has two sides. So this is just random bit of ink, stamp, ink, stamp. Okay, so you just stamp wherever you want, and it doesn't matter. I like how sometimes the stamps are shaped so you can turn them around different ways. and you can go on and off. I'm doing a bit of stamping off, which means you stamp once with full and then you just stamp again. Helps to cover it quicker and gives you better effect. Now this, if you haven't already tried these shimmer inks, they're fabulous because they just give you that extra shine. It's kind of hard to tell in the video. I'll hold it up in a minute to see if you can see everything, see the shine, but it just gives you that extra effect. And quite often if you use the shimmer inks, then you don't really need to emboss, which is fabulous if you're doing a lot of Christmas cards that have heat embossing to do on them. It's just much quicker to do it this way. It still gives you the shimmery effect that you get with embossing. However, with this, you don't have to go through the whole heating cycle. Don't forget to put a few up on the top. So, sorry about having to watch me do all this stamping. I should have stamped this earlier. If you have a bigger stamp with snowflakes, etc., you can have better coverage. So that's the snowman's head stamped. And this one we'll stamp in a minute because we'll cut it out and that way we won't need to stamp as much. So, okay, so I've stamped that and I'm not sure if you can see in this light, there's a bit of a shimmer with that ink. Oh, there's a little bit of a shimmer going on there. See how it shimmers? Okay, you might be wondering, why did I stamp the white paper? Well, originally I did it without stamping it, and it just looked too plain. So then the next thing to do is to do your base. Now you could stamp this up and then cut it out, but it's easier if you actually were to cut it first, because then you don't waste stamping areas that you don't need to stamp. Now, I kind of like, you can eyeball it or you can, you know, trace around it, etc. And I think for this, I might just go around. I like the shape that I had originally. So I'm just going to cut around what I originally had. Just to kind of basically cut a big like splat melting area. And again, you can probably change it up, you know, whatever shape, or if you're, you know, really want to make sure it looks a certain way. But you want to make sure it's big enough in the middle to take the box. So I'm just making a few little blobby bits coming out. It's supposed to look like a bunch of melted snow. I might come back around here a bit. Different. Okay. So there's your melted snow. And then you stamp it again with the ink. But I already pre-stamped part of it beforehand, so you wouldn't have to watch me stamping the whole thing again. So I will just fill in those bits that I must have missed, where I've cut bigger than I had anticipated. And again, you can stamp on and stamp off because the ink is quite wet and gives you extra images. Don't need to ink it up every single time, because as you can see, I still have plenty of ink on there, even with stamping it off. Okay, so I'll just go that edge as well. Gotta watch out the ink. This ink, because it is very wet, it sometimes comes off on your fingers while you're working with it. Okay, so that's enough of the silvery shimmer ink. So we got our head, and we got our body, and we got our little bits. So the other thing you want to do is you want to draw the face on your snowman. Now keep in mind, when you fold it up, and you can go ahead and fold those bits up now that you've stamped it, when it comes together, these parts actually have a little fold line there to fold the two little edges back. Okay, And the easiest way I've found is if you hold the two handles together, you can slot one of the tops in, and then if you just push it down gently, see how I'm pushing it down with the handles, it curves out. And then the same, push it down with the handles slightly. Okay? So this is the part that you want the face to go on, not the part with the handles, not the part that goes over the handles. You want one of the sides with the handles to be what you're going to. I just noticed I didn't put any stars there. I'll just pop a few stars on there. I didn't even re-ink this. See, there's so much ink on there. There we go. A few stars on there. Okay, so one of these that has a handle is where your face is going to be. And so I just kind of did a wonky mouth as if his face is melting off to the side. So for that, I used the basic black marker and just kind of did, you know, wobbly. Okay, so his mouth is sort of drooping down. Again, you could draw this better with pencil if you'd like to do it beforehand. The other thing you need to put on before you put it together is the eyeballs. Now, my original one, I actually had some of the black rhinestones from last year, but we don't have them anymore. So what I wanted to show you is if you get the basic pearl basic jewels, you can actually color them with the Stampin Blends. Now this is different, a different marker than the Stampin' Write. The Stampin' Write marker is actually a water-based marker. The Stampin' Blends marker, they are actually alcohol-based, so they become permanent. And you can get the dark basic black. It's always better to color with the darker of the blends because it takes the color better. And there's a skinny end and a fat end. What you do is you simply color over, and you can see I've already done one. You just color over your pearls. And I go right, I do it while they're still on here so I can get right around the edge. And it doesn't take very long to dry. If it's not dark enough, you just go over a bit more, like that's the one I did earlier, and make them nice and dark. And as you can see, you can do any color. Like you can see I've got a yellow and the red ones, and yellows are good for the center of flowers. Okay? So once you get your eyes done, you can take them off. I find using scissors is a good way if they're sticky. And just plop your eyes like drooping, okay? So I've got one droopy eye there. And we'll do an eye where it should like normally be. Okay. Gives the effect that his face is drooping off of him. Okay. So then you can put your little box together. Again, pushing that down helps to get that in there. Now the slits are bigger than the bottom part of the handle. They've got like a little tab. So that helps to keep them in place. See how it's slightly bigger there? Which is quite handy for when you open them. I don't like to tie anything around the handle at the top because if you put a gift in there, it makes it easier for them, the receiver, to open it and not destroy the gift. Okay, so that's going to be our guy there. Now the last thing we need to stamp for this, which is with the rest of your Whisper White cardstock. So as I said, you just use one piece of Whisper White for this, which is so handy, and then just scraps of other things. So I'm going to use my Tuxedo Black ink for this, and stamp the from the Frosted Foliage stamp set, the You Warm My Heart, because of course if the heart is warmed up on a snowman, what happens? He melts. So just ink it up a bit. I always turn it over to check that the ink's there, and just nice and firm. My first one, I actually tried embossing it, and it looks good embossed, but you can leave it embossed in black or you can leave it just white. And then using the story label punch it out. The best way to punch things out, of course, is upside down, or backwards, yeah, upside down, because that way you can line it up, and this stamp goes right edge to edge, but I like the shape of this punch, so just get it in there, line it up edge to edge, and push it down. There you go. So you still have a bit of Whisper White cardstock left over for other projects. Okay, so for here, now we got to place everything. So got to figure out where we want our hat to go. We've got arms on either side that are melting off, have fallen off because you melted. Okay, and the nose, of course. Okay, so I'm going to place everything. I might, this time around, I think I might put the sentiment closer here because of the way I cut it. See, the other one I had the sentiment off to the side just to fill in the gap. But here I think I might put it there. So I'll pop this up with some dimensionals. I always cut my dimensionals in half because they last longer that way. Don't need full dimensionals on things. Yep. So pop a couple dimensionals there. One in the middle for good luck. Now, best thing with dimensionals when I had nails, you press in the center and the paper actually pulls right up. Quick and easy way to get it off. Press in the center, paper pulls up. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to pop that here. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, and then I'll put my head in last because I'm just going to figure out about where I want. I might trying to decide what shape I want things to be in. Might put him back a bit further, and I can pop the nose over there. Maybe an arm. Might put the arm going that way. There we go. I think that's looking pretty good. So decide where you want things to go. I popped the hat up with dimensionals as well, and I used the fabulous black dimensionals because it's black cardstock. And I'm just going to put a couple on there. These are in the current holiday catalog. So if you are in New Zealand and don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I would love to be yours. So you can click on the links you'll see on this video to have a look at my website and go there to order any and all of the things that you need for this project. I will also have a list on the page showing what you need and the sizes, but as I showed in the video, the sizes are pretty easy for this one. So then all you need to do for the arms, just a little bit of Tombow at the base of the arms. Tombow's not behaving, and it's a brand new one too, so must have got it clogged up. So that's why I left a little bit of fatness at the end of the arms. There we go. So just a little bit at the end of the arm to stick it down. That way it kind of sticks up a bit and looks like it's melted into the puddle. And I got this idea because years ago I actually made one of these with felt and a ping pong ball for the head. So it's not the first time I've made a melted snowman. But yeah, so a bit of Tombow on there. Again, doesn't have to be fully stuck down. Pop the nose like maybe about there. Okay, then gonna put a couple little bits down for the buttons that would have fallen off the snowman. So the red rhinestones are in the catalog. We also have Christmas rhinestones, or you could do what I did earlier and color some of your pearls in if you'd like. So I'm just going to pop 3 of them down because things are always better in 3s. Just kind of randomly stick them as if they had fallen off his shirt. Well, off the front of them. Snowmen don't have shirts, do they? Okay, and so we got all our bits there, and then you can do double-sided tape or glue, however you want, to stick down your box. Make sure you got everything stuck on there first, and then just position your box in such a way that it would sort of make sense for all those bits. And this is where you can pop it open and press on the inside if you need to. You can just give it a good rub on the inside, and then close up your snowman. And before you close it down, put a treat inside. Here's a Ferrero Rocher that fits perfectly inside the little snowman box. Okay, so there's our melted snowman. I hope you liked this little project. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to my page and look out for more videos coming up in the near future. And you can also go to my website at michellekritchley.stampinup.net, or you can go to papercraftaddiction.blogspot.co.nz, because I put a lot of different things about ways to make projects with Stampin' Up! Products and tips and ideas. And I certainly hope you've enjoyed that. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.